Right, we're now doing a bit of a countdown, and we're getting ourselves nicely ready for our special guest, who is just getting herself sorted. She's going to be joining us very soon, but this will just give me a bit of time to kind of give a little bit of an update on yesterday. Yes, we were going to be talking to Rob Slukowitz, and we had a lot to talk about, considering that while we were on air, we also had all the updates when it came to DC Comics. So that was all announced while Rob was going, while we were on air, at which point we had a bit of a technical itch. The Gremlins decided to gum up the works, and everything went slightly haywire. I have been speaking to Rob. We are going to be getting him on, hopefully, on Saturday, but it's all down to him at this point. We're getting everything all sorted. So fingers crossed we'll get him on very shortly indeed. If you have got your notification, and I'm seeing we've got one or two people joining us already, that's because you've got your subscriptions and your notifications and all your bells lit up, and especially for these particular shows, which are outside of our usual programming, our usual Sunday and now Wednesday shows, which means keep those on, because we've got ourselves some great other incidental episodes on the way next Saturday. Not this weekend, because he's tied up with Thought Bubble digital stuff. But next Saturday, we are going to be talking to Al Ewing, which I'm really excited to speak to him about, considering how busy he's been over the course of the summer. So he's had plenty of major projects coming out, including Empire, all sorts of stuff we can get into when it comes to talking to him. Looking forward to it. But of course, we've got loads of other incidental episodes which we're getting sorted out. We're also getting our Wednesdays full as well. We've got Kevin Scott coming to join us. Somebody I've spoken to him on Twitter, but not actually spoken to him face to face. So looking forward to talking to Kevin. That's going to be next week. All of these are incidental episodes outside of our usual Sunday and Wednesday show. Don't forget, this Sunday is going to be a personal highlight for myself, because I'm a massive Scotty Young fan. We tried to get him to do a daily sketch live on the show, but he's turned around and said, no, that's drawing and talking at the same time. And even when he does his videos on his YouTube channel, even that he kind of avoids. So it's just going to be a straightforward chat with Scotty. Really looking forward to that. So there we go. We have our guest in the waiting in the wings. I can see her. She's there. We are going to get into loads of stuff when it comes to upcoming Valiant titles, but we're also going to be talking about Heather and what she's been up to over the course of the summer. Safe to say, it's been a hell of a year, hasn't it? Hello there. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Big cup of tea, because my word, it's one of those incidental episodes where we kind of do a bit of a chat outside of our usual programming. Usually we have these on a Sunday or a Wednesday. Wednesday, certainly while we're in lockdown too, and we're trying to do something to kind of mark the passage of time while we're all stuck inside. But certainly when we get the chance to speak to somebody and they can't join us on a Sunday or a Wednesday, and whenever we can kind of accommodate to their schedule, that's what we do with these incidental episodes, these one-shots of special shows, which we are very glad that you are joining us for today. We're just going to dive straight into it. We're talking to somebody who, it's been a while since we've had her on the show, so I'm really glad to have her back. It's Heather Antos is joining us. Hello there, Heather. How the devil are you?
Hey, yeah, I was trying to remember when's the last time we saw each other.
I'm trying to work out the time, but I do know it was just as you started at Valiant.
I think so. Yeah.
I think you were in the job about a month, something like that. You were just getting nicely settled.
Yeah, I mean, time means nothing this year, so.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, we're going to talk about the time between when you were promoted to senior editor, and I was typing it up, and I was thinking, okay, you were promoted to the position back in March, which was 7-8 decades ago. That's how it's felt. I mean, time has just been so fluid. It's just been insane. But it's great to have you back, and thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Yeah.
Considering, I mean, we've got loads of stuff to talk about when it comes to Valiant titles, but we want to kind of put the spotlight also on you as well, and find out what you've been up to over the course of the summer. As always, everybody, it's open forum. The question, the Q&A chat is open certainly on YouTube. It's open on Facebook as well. If you do have any questions for Heather, do dive in. Of course, we'll get in as many as we possibly can. First things first, I do have to ask, is it Charlie? Is your golden retriever mix to hand? Is somebody?
She is off in her room right now, getting away. It's raining here today.
Oh, right.
And so she hasn't been able to be outside and get walks. So she's very, very rambunctious. So I put her in her kennel during this, so she's not like running around. And she likes to the detriment of anyone trying to do any reading or work, she likes to take her bones and throw them. And I have hardwood floors, and so like luckily my neighbors live upstairs and not downstairs. Luckily I'm on the bottom floor, but she takes her bones and she just throws them and then chases them and then throws them and then chases them. So it's
fair enough.
Adorable, but
it's, I mean, the interviews that I've been seeing you do, and so like the Valiant updates that I've seen you do online, Charlie has always seemed to be an ever present. So it's great because I know that she was someone that you kind of took into the house literally as lockdown happened.
Literally, yeah. No, it's so funny. I had been trying to adopt a dog for about a year now, and I really wanted to rescue. That was really important to me, and unfortunately, I rent. I don't own my own home, and so a lot of rescues have issues with that. Yeah. Working in the city full time, like there's, some places, depending on the dog, they need to be home. And also just in order to be home to train a puppy, like that wasn't really in the cards for me at the time pre-pandemic. And so I was looking for, a dog that was at least housebroken. And so it was really, really hard. And I was having a lot of trouble. And then kind of when things started looking rather serious with the pandemic, I was just like, you know what, maybe I can look into getting a puppy. Like maybe, if we're all going to be home, maybe this is the thing that I could do. And it's so funny because I was staying at my boyfriend's, it was a Friday night, and it was this rescue that I had already been approved for. I went on their website, I looked and saw, and there she was, a cute, adorable little thing. I shot him an email. Within half an hour, they emailed me back. They're just like, she'll be at our event tomorrow. Someone else is interested in her too. What time will you be there? And I was like, what time are you open?
First thing.
And they're like 10 a.m. And then we looked up the address, and it was literally 6 blocks away. So it was just like kismet, all worked out. We got there. She was just the most adorable little thing. And and so she's literally been with me every single day of the pandemic since lockdown.
Wow. And considering that, safe to say, I've seen the map of outbreaks. I think I saw one yesterday or earlier on today, and it's all very much Midwest. It's in the center of the country, but New York, where you're based, it got hit particularly hard certainly the start of the whole the whole pandemic. I can only assume what you went through over the course of, because like I say, it was from that first initial strike, and New York was at the vanguard of it all. So you were there pretty much from the start. I mean, how has your summer been in terms of being locked in, being able to go out? What's been your pandemic like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me personally, working from home is a dream. I'm such an introvert, you know, and I very much need like quiet and focus in order to do work. So like, you know, the commuting life, obviously for anyone is stressful in Manhattan, it's super stressful. It's expensive to commute. And so, you know, not having to pay to commute is great. You know, being able to walk 15 feet to my desk is fantastic. Being home with a puppy all day long is most days fantastic. Most days. But no, so in that regard, like I didn't have trouble with, you know, that adjustment. I think honestly, the biggest adjustment for me, and I think for most of us in this community, has not been having conventions. Like I didn't realize how much of my social life is conventions. And like, that's where I see my friends and my family and I hang out. And, you know, last year I had my busiest travel year ever. I did like 15 shows, and to go from that to nothing. And like this year, you know, I was supposed to do Sweden, and I was supposed to do Australia, and I was supposed to do South Africa, and I was so stoked. And, you know, so like that was a bummer. But luckily, I'm very, very fortunate that, again, the New York, New Jersey area where I live, because we acted so quickly in regards to lockdown, and everyone around here has been, you know, for the most part, behaving appropriately in regards to distancing and masks and stuff. Like up until recently, when things started to pick up again, like we were able to like feel relatively normal. Like, you know, we would have outdoor social gatherings with friends that we knew were sane, and you know, things like that. But I'm very lucky in the fact that like I don't need social interaction. In fact, I run away from it. So
fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I mean, the way I've been starting the shows, certainly for this particular run of shows, because I decided I was going to do that funky new intro. I was going to do change some brand. Thank you. Change some brand. Oh, I've had one or two people sort of like coming in, and the credits or the titles are finished, and one or two people who's just coming on going, I miss convention so much. Filling up a bit. But I've been starting off with a couple of questions. So we might as well, we'll do those real quick. Number one is, it's a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. I've got my tea. What beverage have you got to hand?
I have sparkling water. It's it's peach sparkling water.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Number two, can you remember your first comic convention that you went to? Did you go as a pro? Did you go as a fan? Can you remember the first one, the first proper comic convention that you went to?
So I have never gone to a comic convention as just a fan. Every single one I've ever gone to is as a pro, because for me, I grew up in a very rural area where, like, you know, comic conventions really weren't a thing, or like I didn't have the money to go travel to them. And the first show I ever went to was C2E2.
It's a good start.
14, I think, was the first one I ever went to. And I had been covering, I'd been writing comic reviews and interviews and general pop culture news stuff for a couple different sites at the time. So I had press passes. And so my whole first year of comic conventions was all press passes. And I didn't go to one until I was 23 years old. So yeah, that was, yeah.
Pretty, yes. Not a bad start there. That's pretty good.
I felt very, very lucky in the fact that, like, I have always been able to have a pro pass or a press pass and like cut lines, and like, so like I've never had the true fan comic con experience, which I'm kind of grateful for, because again,
you're not missing too much. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with the lines, and I can like sneak into like back passage entrances and hide, and that's my dream. So
fair enough. And number 3, the question I've been asking is, obviously when you go to conventions, you do get the chance to meet some idols, some people that you've admired, the work that you've collected or perhaps read over the years. And every once in a while, you will come face to face with someone and the brain will take a leap 5 foot to the left and you're left a little bit weak at the knees, a little bit mealy mouth. Has there been anyone that that you can call on as an example of where you've just gone, and just kind of lost the plot a bit?
Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully they'll never see this. But again, it's C2E2 2014. So to preface, I'm a huge, massive fan of the band Coheed and Cambria. I've been following them since I was 13 years old. I've gone to like 20 something odd shows, like huge fan. And that year, Claudio Sanchez, he also writes comics, huge comics fan. Even did music for one of the Arkham games for Batman, because like he loves comics. And he had a new book coming out that year, and somehow through the glories of social media, I was able to, like, his like manager or something, like I was able to get an interview with him and his wife about their book that was coming out. And I'm not someone, I don't really get starstruck very easily. Like there are 3 times in my life where I've ever been like super starstruck. One was when I was 13 and I met Ruth Riley, who was the center of Notre Dame women's basketball, champion at the time. And I was huge fan, and I got to meet her and I cried. The second time was when Wayne Brady was visiting the Marvel offices. And again, I grew up watching Who's Line and Wayne Brady, and he was just like the sweetest, kindest, nicest person. And like, I didn't know he was coming. Like all of a sudden, like he just walks into my office. And I was just, oh my God, you're Wayne Brady. Like, he was really sweet, and I cried.
I'm detecting a theme here.
I just get overcome with emotion. But the other time was when I met Claudio, when I had to interview him and his wife. And I remember, like, I had just gotten done interviewing like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, right? And Jimmy and Amanda, and like all of these like huge people in the industry, and like, whatever, that's fine, no big deal. And I remember like shaking heading into that interview, and just so nervous and stumbling over my words. And like and anyone who knows me, I don't really get nervous. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty calm. And like I was just, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. I want you to like me. I don't want to come off stupid, and it went fine. And since then, it's one of those, like, had I only known, right? Like I've become friends with them, they live in Brooklyn. We've gotten lunch, we've gotten dinner. Like I've gone to baseball games, so it's just like really, I'm very lucky, but it's also like really weird. And that, like, that was someone that I like was so freaked out to meet that, like, like, oh yeah, it's Claudio.
Excellent. Great story. Thank you for that. We kind of skipped the intro mostly because I think most people who are watching this will know who you are. But if we kind of just go a little bit with the kind of a pocket history, because I mean, I kind of came into your work via when you were, because I'm a Star Wars fan, and I kind of got really back into collecting comics again by the Marvel Star Wars titles. And that's why I started seeing your name as one of the editing team for the Star Wars titles. So that's where I kind of came into your career. But I saw an interview where you proclaimed that the 2011 Green Lantern film was what got you into superhero comics. To start with, tell me one good thing about Green Lantern, apart from a topless Ryan Reynolds.
About the movie.
Yeah.
One good thing about it. It's what got me reading superhero comics. That's one good thing about it. Like,
fair enough. No,
it's so funny. Because like a lot of people, when they ask, what got you into superhero comics, because up until then I'd been reading mostly Vertigo, stuff
that was going to be the question. And so what were you reading before then?
Yeah,
was it indie? Was it graphic novels? What was it?
Yeah, it was mostly Vertigo. I mean, Sandman is what got me into comics. That was the first true comic series that I read, and I moved to Transmetropolitan and Why the Last Man, and Hellblazer back when that wasn't a superhero comic. So it wasn't like most people. I kind of felt intimidated by just the longevity, and I didn't know where to start, and I kind of had a very uneducated perspective on what superhero comics were, right? I kind of had that stereotypical, it's cheesy and just not for me. But the Green Lantern movie was coming out, and it was right around the time that New 52 was happening, and my partner at the time had decided he's gonna read all the New 52 stuff, and he picked all of those up, and we were in a shop, and I think they had one of those signs that had Secret Origins and Emerald Dawn. Those were the two books that the movie was based on. So I was like, screw it, I'll pick them up, I'll read it. I read them both. I loved them both. And so I then gave a huge deep dive into Jeff Johns' entire Green Lantern run at the time. And I will never forget going to the theater and being so excited to see this movie, and literally open sequence. The very first opening scene, I turned to my boyfriend, that's not how it should be. It should be like this. They're doing it wrong. From the opening scene, I was like, this is terrible. and so I was a true comic book fan, obviously, right at that moment, because I knew better. And yeah, from there, I started dabbling in superhero-dom.
Fair enough. And I find it, because it's a very similar story to another Vertigo editor story. That coming into comics, not from the traditional kind of reading material. You came in, like I say, through the Vertigo kind of the style, and I find it interesting, the evolution of your comics. Then, considering that then you are now as a senior editor of Valiant, which is predominantly superhero and very steeped in its mythos, and it's interesting the way that Valiant deals with mythos as well. The whole if somebody dies in canon, they don't come back. It's a unique way for superhero stories to be told, and that's what I think a lot of people find appealing about Valiant. But when it comes to the editor role, then, because I think when you were promoted to the role of senior editor, obviously those decades ago, no doubt you had plenty of plans in mind for what you wanted to achieve in the role. But how were those plans kind of derailed in the shadow of COVID?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny getting promoted to a creative, director role, kind of that being a senior editor is right at the beginning of a pandemic. At the beginning, everyone asked me what's the difference? What's it like? And I was like, I don't know. There's a pandemic happening. We stopped publishing. I'll let you know. So yeah, like every other publisher, we had big plans for 2020. All of those had to change. We right now are re-announcing books that were originally supposed to come out this year for next year. And so, yeah, we had to completely you know, flip the table on our publishing plan and start from scratch, and which is frustrating on one hand, right? It's super, super frustrating because you had all of these plans with creators and you were super excited and passionate about them. And of course, there's a lot of disappointment all around. And, you know, you have to navigate that both on a professional level with your relationship with your creators and retailers and fans, right? You know, no one's thrilled about any of this. I'm not happy that Shadow Man didn't come out this year, you know, like I'm not thrilled about it either. And then you also have to navigate that from a creative and business perspective of what is the best for the publisher, right? What's the best for the publisher and the industry as a whole? Because, you know, if every single publisher started publishing the same amount of books and the same frequency that we did pre-pandemic all at the same time, like retailers wouldn't be able to handle that. Diamond wouldn't be able to handle that. Fans wouldn't be able to handle that. Like, you know, it would clog the system almost. So, you know, there are a lot of decisions that need to be really well thought out in that regard, but also the same for the characters in the universe itself. You know, what are the characters that are most important to get back on the table right away? What stories do we need to focus on? What things were we going to focus on that aren't as important right now? You know, there's a lot of big decisions that, quite frankly, don't all agree with one another across the weird spider web of decisions that need to be made. And we're not going to get them right every single time. And we're not going to know, you know, until it's out there if we should have done things differently. So it's definitely made the last several months very interesting, to say the least. Every day is very, very different. And I mean that in some regards of, like, you know, we may have settled on a publishing plan and been like, yes, that's it, that's the one. And then tomorrow, just kidding, it's all ripped to shreds.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. It's shifting sands on a weekly basis, daily basis. It's yeah. I mean, we've talked to enough creators over the pandemic summer and talked about how things have changed for that aspect of the industry, you know, with creators trying to find ways to connect with an audience, which is what I mean, we've seen. I saw the article, was it yesterday, about Kickstarter having record movement when it comes to the comics aspect of Kickstarter. But how has it been like at the more administrative level of comics? I mean, what pressures have been added on top of what you would normally be dealing with?
You know, obviously now that I'm in a higher up role, I deal a lot more with the boring but very important number stuff. You know, and it sucks because on the side of, like, you know, obviously we got into this because we love stories and we love being creative, and like that's what we want to focus on, and that in our minds and in my mind should be the most important thing, right? It should be. We live in a capitalistic society, and creative and story is not the most important thing, especially higher up the ladder you go. It just isn't. And so, you know, I view my job, and it's quite frankly the most stressful part of my job, is to protect the creators and those characters as much as I can, and fight for them as much as I can in regards to those numbers. And so
where's, I mean, when you say that, when you're having to fight for your creators, where's that pressure coming from?
I mean, myself, you know, a lot of it is coming just from me. You know, could I wake up and be like, fuck it, I don't care if they get paid, I don't care if, you know, the story they've been working on for 3 years happens, whatever, I still have a job. Like, that would make me a really shitty person. You know, and like, I don't know, it's my editorial philosophy. Like, you know, do my creators technically, are they employed by the company? Yes, but they're not, you know, staff. But like, we're all in the trenches together, you know.
Sure.
Like, my blood and sweat and tears is in these books just as much as theirs are. And quite frankly, they have more at stake. And like, I am their voice inside the company. I am there to fight for them. They can't fight for themselves. So I have to fight as hard as I can for them. That's on me. And you know, whether or not that gets me in trouble sometimes, whatever, like that's, but like I try and be as straightforward and honest with my creators as I am with my publisher, of just like, this is the situation. And I always remind my publishers, you know, whatever publisher it is I'm working for, is all right, if you want to make this shitty decision, you can, but just understand that they all talk, you know, and they all talk with each other, and them talking with each other will affect our future, whether you want to admit that or not. You know, I think publishers, especially IP publishers that have, you know, these franchises, like to think, well, anyone will be grateful to work for us. You know, anyone would kill to work for us. They all need paychecks. They're all starving. They all need paychecks, and they'll take whatever they can get. And it's like, that's a really shitty perspective to have, because then you treat the creators, the people that quite frankly, you know, are the spine of you know, what you do. If you didn't have the creators, you would have no franchises, you would have no IP, you would have nothing. And so in my opinion, it is editors' jobs, and especially the higher up you go, to fight for those creators just as hard as you fight for the characters.
What would you say is the biggest misconception, and not just for your current role as senior editor, but also when you were an editor across several books? What would you say is the biggest misconception for comics fans who have enough opinions about what people's jobs roles are as it is? What do you think is the biggest misconception they have about what an editor does in comics?
Oh, not 100%. Everyone thinks an editor is just a proofreader. That's, you know, like it's so funny, because it's kind of like, you know, it's like when I was an assistant editor, you know, it's either I have all the power in the world and I'm making all of these huge decisions to hire and fire people as an assistant editor, or my job is to just get coffee, right? Like that's what I heard, you know, all the time. And it depends on the argument that they want to have, and the perspective, and how evil editors are, right? And you know, Tom Brevoort had the saying that he told all assistant editors at Marvel is, you know, when things go right, you'll never get credit, and when things go wrong, you get all the blame. And that's true. And quite frankly, I don't care. You know, I know my contributions, my creators know the contributions, you know, and the internet's going to internet. But yeah, I think, you know, the majority of people out there have this misconception that editors are just proofreaders. And fun fact, proofreading and the bigger publisher you get is its own department.
Yeah. We've got a question from Solicitous Meg, and to be fair, this is in two parts, because he wasn't too sure how it was read, and I actually turned around and said I may rephrase it. So we'll see how he goes. We'll see.
One-part questions.
We'll see how it goes. You said when you said America has the worst fans, were you a bit afraid, since we're also a country of untreated mental patients? We're also just counting nerd fans, because common soccer fans. I think basically what he's talking about, and he clarifies in a second, did it come off as a threat? Because I thought afterwards, rereading it, but I obviously didn't mean it.
No, I know exactly what he's asking.
Yeah.
And it's so someone asked on Twitter, and I got a ton of shit for it, and quite frankly, whatever, because it's Twitter. Someone asked what has the most fans, or what has the worst fans, and I said America. And a lot of people who, fun facts, people on the internet, when you read something, it's not about you, but everyone likes to internalize everything to be about them, right? Yeah. But they're like, America has the worst fan. I'm a fan of things and I'm American, therefore I'm terrible. Fuck you, right? Like that's how a lot of people. And not to get political, but for me, it was like, oh no, it's people who are fans of America, right? Like the diehard, almost like you shouldn't be fans of country.
I don't want to use the word cultish, but I think I know what you mean.
No, but that's exactly yeah. It's the like, oh, do or die America, my freedoms, like that, that whole. Where I put an American flag on my underwear, my toothbrush, my, spray paint. Like that's what I was referring to. People who are like, diehard fans of a land, essentially. So that's what it was. And,
Oh, believe me, we've got that right here in the UK as well.
No,
exactly. that jumped up jingoistic chest beating.
Yeah,
I think is the I know exactly what you mean.
It's xenophobia. That's what I was trying to. That's the word I was talking about xenophobia. I was making a joke of it, but again, because everyone's a sensitive nerd about something, and got internalized, and like it's shit. It ain't about you.
Yeah.
And if it is about you and you're getting upset, maybe do some self-reflection.
Sure. You've had your own experience with toxic fandom, which is well documented. I don't want to get into that here, and I know it's difficult, but I can imagine it's also a very difficult position to be in, being a senior editor, when you have to be the flag bearer of projects. You have to put yourself out there and put your head above the parapet. How protective have you become when it comes to putting yourself out online? Because the way it seemed to me is that when the stuff I'm referring to, skirting around, is when it happened, there was a lot of people that also came to your defense, and they kind of created also a little bit of a bubble around you. But was it also more a case of you being more personally guarded in what you say or do online?
I think for anyone who follows me knows I'm not particularly guarded about what I say online. I'm very outspoken, to my detriment or not. But what one of the best lessons I got out of essentially the target that was put on my back was, I definitely grew a lot thicker skin. It's very easy, again, as we just said before, to internalize anything that everyone says about, and take it as about yourself. And for anyone, that's a habit to break. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of work, and it's not easy. There's still days where like people say shitty things, and I just have to walk away.
Yeah.
But I think for me, especially because of that particular incident that I know you're referencing, where it wasn't just me, but it was my friends, that I saw were getting attacked, and anyone who came to my defense was getting attacked. And then people would dig up personal information about me to attack, family or friend members that have nothing to do with the comics industry. I definitely did try and find some boundaries between personal and professional. And that is, I have my personal account, which, this is only people who like I know in real life. And if I use it at all, and then like obviously my Twitter is my professional public accounts where I'm me. But I'm very, very mindful of posting photos with other people in it, tagging other people in it. When I would be, in a relationship, I wouldn't connect them to my public accounts in any way, shape, or form. Or if I was in any way, I would, a huge thing for me is asking consent now, even in my public profiles, because anytime I tag someone, it's opening a door to them being attacked for something that I did, which is unfair.
Sure.
But I can't control what other people do. But I can at least ask consent if I'm going to potentially open floodgates, right? And so,
but even so, I mean, I thought it was, while it also saw the rise of a real toxic element of fandom, which has now solidified into its own kind of platform, there was also this real kind of circling of the wagons and a coming together of the industry on your side, taking on some of that, some of those attacks, and kind of forming an offensive and really kind of sort of like putting up the barricades and making a stand. And I it was, for myself, it was motivating to see, because there was this sense of absolute camaraderie, which I saw, which I thought was inspiring, quite frankly.
No, absolutely. And, it was overwhelming. Like, at the time, it was just, it was traumatic. Like, it truly was on both fronts. I didn't know what to make of any of it. I was confused, I'm still confused about a lot of it.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Like, it's truly wrong time, wrong place. Really, that's what it comes down to. Like, it could have happened to anyone to become this target. But yeah, like, a big thing for me in all of this toxic fandom, like, I never wanted it to be about me, and that's, I think we had this conversation a couple years ago, the first time we were on. Like, I don't want this conversation to ever be about me and my experiences. I want it to be about
which is where we are actually doing a spotlight on you.
This is how I'm steering the ship. Like, I want it to be about toxic fandom and the problems out there, and how to combat it, and how, basically, to survive it too. When it was happening, when I was in the throes of it 4 years ago, and let's be frank, for anyone listening, that toxic, it wasn't, oh, I was a target 4 years ago and now everything's fine. Like, it's not.
Hunky-dory, yeah.
I know how to combat it a lot better. And that comes with blocking over, tens of thousands of accounts on Twitter, quite frankly, which shouldn't be the case, but here we are. But when I was in the biggest throes of it, my biggest fears was, that's it, my career is over. No one's going to want to hire me. I'm never going to get promoted. I'm never going to work ever again. People are just going to see me as a PR problem, which, to be frank, some people did. And that became very real and very, very scary. And for anyone who is ever a target of toxic fandom or cyber harassment or anything like this, on whatever scale, I want to, at least my experience, to show that, like, it's not going to affect your career, especially as more and more companies become educated and that these cultures are out there. And like, it's, it sucks, but you can survive it. Like, it is a thing where, like, you literally can't just turn Twitter off. It doesn't follow you anymore. So, yes, there are bad things and mental health and all of that needs to be discussed and combated, but it isn't as detrimental, I think, as it used to be, the more educated that companies and other people become. We see it for what it is now, especially in the last 4 years of a particular administration, where, it's a lot easier to move forward and survive and, still have a really great career, which I'm very lucky and fortunate to have.
Yeah. I did quite like the tweet. I saw it this morning. I can't remember who tweeted it, but basically they put a screenshot on, and it was a whole bunch of responses underneath muted tweets. And the tweet was quite simply, "You can just mute him, you know."
Mm-hmm.
You kind of go, "Yep, you can just shut that down." We'll wrap this part of the conversation up. But I will say that definitely one of the most positive aspects of the situation and you being online is seeing people like yourself, such as Gail Simone, such as Amanda Dybert, using platforms to raise conversation in the wake of all of this and promote creatives using hashtags such as Signal Boost Sunday, which is for me one of the most cool things I've seen on Twitter. It's just amazing. How did that start, and where are you with it at the moment? Because I know that it kind of got overwhelming for a bit there.
Yeah, so Signal Boost Sunday came about kind of in a way as my response to hello Daniel. It's kind of my
in that case I'll put that one up as well. There you go, big
fan. Thank you. It kind of came up almost in a response to a lot of that toxic fandom out there. I just, both from my own experiences, but friends' experiences, I just kept seeing these social platforms become such a toxic, negative, mind joy sucking, place. And like, that's not what they should be, like I would not have my career if it weren't for social media. I wouldn't have my career if it weren't for Twitter and other people like seeing my tweets and giving me a chance, and being a part of the conversation. And at that point, I had around, I don't know, like 10,000 followers, and I was starting to build, a little bit of a following on social media. And like, I wanted to, what can I do? What's the bare minimum that I can do to help support, someone who was just in my steps a few years ago? I can retweet them, like it's the easiest, it's a click, literally. It is just a click. And I can boost them and maybe someone will see it. Right. And so I wanted to create this community, this event, this experience where it was all about paying it forward. And my rules are very simple. If I'm going to pay it forward for you, you at least have to pay it forward for someone else. I want to build this habit that, comics is not a competition. It's a conversation. It's a community. And with creator owned comics bigger than they've ever been before, no one's taking a job from you. If you're creating your own comics. And so, let's build each other up. Let's support each other. Let's build this sense of community, that these platforms can and should be. And so that's kind of where it came from. And I used to do it every single Sunday. And I would do it from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Which
that's a day of it, man.
It's a day of it. It's a lot. It is a lot. And I did it every single Sunday for the longest time. And it just is so draining. So draining. And so what I've tried to do, and after a while, it kind of tapered off. But what in 2020, I started doing it again, where I try and do it the first Sunday of every single month. And I'm not perfect. I do miss some every once in a while, but yeah, the first Sunday of every single month, I try and do a Signal Boost Sunday, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And, I think the greatest thing that I see is I see people like having these conversations and discovering each other's work, and like forging relationships and, buying commissions and buying art and, oh, I want to work with this person now. And like, I get DMs from people and like, thank you so much. I've, I now have a project that came together because of this.
Wow.
Like, that's what it's for, like, that's what it is about. It's about connecting each other and again, for anyone listening who is a creator, like this isn't just for comics. Like if you have a podcast or music or, whatever, it's for creative people in general.
I've had this one. I've had this show blasted out by Signal Boost. I'm more than grateful for the
friends and yeah, like it's just my like trying to remind people that like we should be community building and building each other up, and that's what that's why we create in the first place. We don't create to bring other people down.
Absolutely. Tell you what, we'll wrap things up on this particular part of the conversation with just the one question. When was the last time you had a milkshake, and what was the flavor?
Oh God. It was probably right before the pandemic hit. I had two friends actually from Birmingham, from England, in town. And
careful, all they know about milkshakes is McDonald's, man.
I know.
Be careful.
So they were in town, and we were hanging out with them, and one of my buddies was like, it was his first time ever in America, and he was told, he has to have a good burger and a milkshake. Like that's like the most American, whatever meal. He's like, do you know a good spot? And I was like, well, I don't know. I've never had a burger there, but I can find you a good milkshake. And it's a place called Black Tap. And
I think Alex Pagnadell's told me about that.
Yes. And if you follow me on social media, you've seen my posts of them. You can go on my Instagram, and they have these elaborate, crazy milkshakes. Like one I had has like literally a piece of cake on top of it, or they'll have like a Choco Taco. Do you know what a Choco Taco is?
I think I have an idea. Yeah.
It's a waffle cone taco shell with ice cream and like fudge on top. Like they're these massive, huge things where it's like, I told my buddy, I was like, I just get the milkshake because it's like a full.
It's an event.
Like you don't get a milkshake and a meal and like whatever, but he did, and God bless him, he did it. I don't. Whatever. But so I was like, this is the most like extravagant, ridiculous milkshake. So that's what I had. And I don't remember their like weird artsy name for it, but it was like a cinnamon sugar flavored milkshake with like churros in it. And it was amazing. It was so good.
That's elaborate. Wow.
Yeah.
Dan Berry saying Black Tap has also milkshakes. The Downtown Disney one, I believe, is what he's referring to.
Oh, I've never been to one in Downtown Disney. No, they have a couple in New York, and they're just Google them. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Black Tap milkshakes. They are like your teeth will hurt looking at them.
And then you got Aaron Neighbors, Signal Boost Sunday is awesome. Milkshake Monday. If we all just share milkshakes, there we go.
Right? I'll never forget, I did a signing once, and a couple fans brought me milkshakes, and it was just like the weirdest but coolest.
It must be so strange that that's the thing that is attached to your name now. It's so odd.
It's only strange to me because I didn't have one in the picture. That's the
thing.
That's the thing for me is like I didn't even have one, and that's why I posted that picture on a Friday, and then the Monday I was like, well, here's my selfie with a milkshake. If I'm gonna get shit for this, I'm gonna. Yeah,
fair enough.
That's my brand.
Fair enough. Right, let's go back to March. I'm really curious what the mood around the Valiant office was when Bloodshot moved to streaming, seeing that it was one of the first films to go to streaming. It had 2 weeks in the cinemas, and then it was one of the first to actually have the streaming audience. And it was kind of like the first film, or one of the first films that people were paying very close attention to, because it was going to give the indicator of what the new normal would be. What was the mood around the Valiant office when that happened?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, yeah. So it's funny, again, right around that time was right when, you know, HBO declared pandemic. And I was supposed to, for those who don't know, in America, the pandemic first broke out in Seattle and then LA. Those are the first two places where it really like appeared. And that week I was supposed to be at Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle and the Bloodshot premiere in LA. Needless to say, the Valiant staff that was supposed to go to both things did not. So that was, you know, for us, at least for me, my stress wasn't about, oh, how well is the film going to do? Because like for me, I was just like, that's not the important thing. The important thing is that people are not sick, and are taking precautions and doing the right thing. And then, you know, obviously people were freaking out about it because this was supposed to be our big splash. This was, you know, supposed to kind of kick things off cinematically. And now it's all getting, for lack of a better word, shot to pieces. And yeah, I mean, opening weekend wasn't, we were the biggest opening weekend of
yeah, good point.
We were. Not that there was much competition because everyone pulled out, but we were, and then when it went straight to streaming, I mean, we were the highest streaming film for a couple of weeks. Like it was doing really, really well. So, you know, there's a lot of all things considered. I think it went as well.
And then Trolls 2 came along and cut your legs.
I know. God.
Swines.
But no, all things considered, I think it went really, really well. And, you know, they just announced Bloodshot 2. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go into that because, I mean, we've been hearing word about the Bloodshot sequel, and I can imagine we can't talk too much about that other than that there's the conversations about it's happening. Yeah. I was really curious because, I mean, Vin Diesel is quite the draw. And he no doubt brought people who don't usually read comics into the eventual box office. Now, the eternal argument is that theatrical releases can then spill back into sales of comics. And Valiant is a business where you can definitely tell if there's an uptick or not. Was that the case or not? And if not, what can we do to change that dynamic, do you think?
Well, it's hard because, again, that's when Diamond shut down and the pandemic happened.
Man, yeah, okay. Yeah, good point.
So it's hard to...
I was going to say we'd be able to work out the math, but yeah, you're right. It's difficult to... Exactly. Then that happens, yeah.
It's because right when people, you know, would have been seeing it in theaters or would have, you know, whatever, we had digital sales, and I don't really deal with the sales numbers. Specifically, that's the sales department. But I do know that, you know, during the time that Diamond was shut down, our digital sales were doing really, really well, and we're picking up. What I can say, and I don't know what causation or correlation, you know, what Bloodshot has to do with anything in this regard, but I can say, you know, our sales have been really good this year in comparison with past years. And I know that's kind of across the board with comics right now. Yeah. So, you know, thanks to the shutdown where everyone finally cleared out their backlogs and was, you know, excited to pick up new comics. But like for me, my concern and my worry was XO #1 was shipped the last week that comics were shipped to stores. And you know, XO #2 is coming out November 25th. So that's
we'll get into that because I've got graphics and everything.
It's a massive, it is a massive, massive gap. And yet XO #2 is one of our highest selling #2s. I think it's the highest selling #2 that Valiant has had in several years. So that's great. You know, it's been 8 months.
Well, there's nothing like building anticipation for something, is there?
Yeah, like it's funny too, because like I've in marketing number 2, like I've done all these interviews and everyone asks like, oh, because of the pandemic, did you have time to go back and like rework anything? And we're just like, no, it was ready to go to print. Like it's been done. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone has had this conversation, like, how do we correlate movie ticket sales to comic books, right? And I don't know. I wish I knew the answer. There's been a lot of conversation.
Let's put it this: if you knew, I think, yeah,
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it been? Because I mean, you were talking about the way that the industry has had quite the year with people that have either been at home, they've been dying for content, they've been wanting to have something to embrace and to move forward. But I've also mentioned about the numbers that Kickstarter has done for creators, and the Kickstarter has been an incredible platform, crowdfunding in general. But what's it been like for Valiant then when, say, for example, creators coming to you? Because obviously, like you say, Diamond shut down, various companies shut the doors and just went into pause mode. Did you have a number of creators coming to Valiant, looking for alternative avenues to work over the summer?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would have creators like email like, oh, let's do a book, and I mean, nothing. It happens all the time, right? Like that's as an editor, this happens. People say, hey, you have hiring power, hire me. So that hasn't changed. And it's, I feel for creators on, books are getting canceled or, shelved.
Projects are getting,
exactly. And I know I'm not giving them an answer that they haven't already heard. It's, back in the summer, it was no one is publishing, so I can't do anything. And now, like most other publishers, we're working through our backlog. So it's, yes, things are definitely moving at a much better pace than they were, 4, 5, 6 months ago. But the flip side of that's exciting is because I think so many projects were shelved or whatever is more people are saying yes to things now because they have availability.
Yeah.
Which I'm of two minds of, right? It's it's unfortunate that so many things have been canceled or shelved, but also yay for me, I can work with some people that I want to work with.
Fair enough. I mean, you can't speak for anyone at DC Comics now, nor would I want you to. And all the latest news is still very, very fresh. But I'm really curious what your take on the mainstream comics landscape is at large. Is it in a hell? I mean, we talked about sales, and the sales have been showing that there's an audience out there, and the books are being sold. Is comics in a healthy place, or is there still areas that are at risk, considering that we are seeing people being laid off? Is that literally just a DC Comics AT&T thing, or is it more across the board?
I mean, there's no easy black and white answer to that. For me personally, and this is, I mean, what's happened over at DC the last couple of months in AT&T and Warner Brothers is awful. It truly awful. And Disney, I mean, Disney's laid off so many people too in comics and across, all their subsidiaries. But, for me personally, again, time is fluid and what happened yesterday might as well have been last decade. But last year, AT&T had brought in a new head, president or whatever. And I did a little research on this person back then, and at their previous corporation they were at, they kind of did the same thing that they're doing to Warner Brothers now, where they came in and they, consolidated it and gutted, and exactly, which
I was waiting for you to just use the word consolidated, because that's the polite way of just doing what they've done.
No, and that is what it is. It's awful. It's terrible. It's not new. In any corporation, it's not new in comics. So when they came on, you know, honestly, a lot of the comics talk at the time in my circles was when is that going to happen? You know, and when are they going to do it to DC? You know, are they going to do it before San Diego, after San Diego, before New York, after New York? Like when's the best press time to do a bunch of layoffs? Answer, never. But then, you know, then the pandemic happened. And so I think, you know, it's kind of gotten woven into that. So on one hand, for me, I'm like, I'm shocked that they took this long to do it. But I'm also grateful that people still had to have jobs as long as they have. It's unfortunate because I'm sure the pandemic made it easier for them to hit the numbers that they wanted to
justify it in the press, I think. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, is comics in a healthy place? Not as healthy as we would like it to be.
Sure.
You know, we're in a capitalistic society. The people at top are always going to want to squeeze the juice, and then yell at the fruit for not having any juice left, right? Like that's kind of the world we live in. And they look at numbers first and numbers only, and that's all they care about, and that affects, you know, the car industry as much as it affects the comics industry. And unfortunately, with an industry where margins are as thin and profits are as little as comics, because fun fact, it takes a lot of people to put a comic book to print. They're not cheap to make. You know, it's everyone is overworked and underpaid. And when consolidations happen, that overworked and underpaid becomes even greater. So,
okay. Shall we talk a little bit more positive then? Let's talk about books that are coming. Let's talk about books coming forward, because we are going to get into some, like you say, we've talked about certainly one book that we're going to get into in a second. Very quickly, we'll cover a couple of questions that have come in, or a couple of comments. Like I say, I did put it up on the screen, but just in case you didn't see it, Bloodshot was the last movie I saw in the theaters. I was supposed to be at Emerald City also when the pandemic broke out. This is Dan Berry. Mine was Birds of Prey, which feels like a goddamn eternity ago, which is just...
I went and saw Invisible Man. That was the last one.
Jeez. I think it was Bloodshot, it was Trolls 2, and it was Invisible Man. Those are the three that... Wow.
I will say, last week before everything shut down, though, I went to 2 hockey games. I went out and got that awesome milkshake. I went to a movie and I adopted a puppy. So it was a pretty good last week.
That's a week. And then, yeah. Solicitor Meg, I haven't seen a movie in theaters for like a year and a half, and I'm jonesing for popcorn with God knows what on they pass on as butter. Yeah, I get that. And Solicitor Meg, Gordon Ramsay's burger place in Vegas has some crazy shakes.
I've seen.
So there we go.
Those ones are crazy. Also, Junior's Cheesecake has some very crazy milkshakes too.
Here in the UK, I don't know anywhere that actually does decent milkshake. I mean, I said this when I came over to San Diego, because I've only been to California, and the one thing, it's like when we have here in the UK, we don't have proper burger joints, and then you go to like In-N-Out, and you go to Carl's Jr., and you go to all the other burger places in the States, and you just go, oh God, they're doing this right, and we just don't know what the hell we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. When
every time I take someone new, or I'm with someone in like the UK or Ireland who's never been, you know, there before, I was like, I want to take you to their version of a diner, of an American diner, because it's so cute to me. It's so funny.
Yeah, we don't really know what we're doing.
You try your best though. But yeah, no, to be fair, when it comes to milkshakes, I mean, at least in my experience, the UK isn't really known for their desserts.
We do Yorkshire puddings. We do roasts well, but
Yeah,
that's a whole other ballgame.
You're great. You're great at what you're great at.
Thank you very much indeed. Very diplomatic of you. Well done. Okay, so let's talk about the books. You've mentioned 3 when we've been kind of like setting this up, and certainly the ones that have got my attention. We'll start with Savage because I mean, I'm a massive Triona Farrell fan, and what I've seen on the pages of what she's done here is just astonishing. Max Bemis on writing, Nate Stockman on art, Triona on colours, and Hassan Hosman, hello. I always trip up over that name, but I got there eventually on the letters. This is Savage. Tell us all about it, because this just looks astonishing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This book, it's every single one of these books. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Like, I've been sitting on them for, God, a year and a half, 2 years, some of them at this point, because pandemic. So I'm like, I just want them out there and for people to enjoy them the way I've been enjoying them. But yeah, a little background on Savage for those who don't know. Kevin Savage was born in an alternate dimension called the Faraway, where there are dinosaurs and magic and crazy things are happening. So he was born and raised there, and kind of a dinosaur hunter kind of dude. And all of a sudden, he passed through a blip that landed him in Piccadilly Circus in London. And all of a sudden, this kid who's been missing, who's a kid of a famous footballer and model, I think his mom was a model, just shows up. And all of a sudden becomes like an overnight sensation superstar. He finds parkouring on buildings fun, and he's savage. He's rural. He's, grotesque in the only way that is deemed cool on the internet now. Right? He's a spectacle. And he hates it. He misses it. He wants his old life back. And spoiler alert, some people creep in who say, we can give you your old life back.
Of course.
But it comes at a cost. And so that's what the story is about, is Savage trying to find his place in a not so savage land.
It looks amazing. Like I say, I hadn't really, I knew the basics of the storyline, but I didn't realize it was based in the UK. All right, yeah. Okay. It's
funny, Nate. When I hired Nate, he was like, "Oh, I'm actually going to be in London next week, so I'm going to go and like snap a bunch of reference photos." So that worked out.
Fair enough. And then we were talking about Exo Man of War. Like I say, issue 2. Now, very, very quickly, let's talk about dates as well, because Savage is due February 21.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're talking a couple of months away. This one, however, 2 weeks? Something like that?
2 weeks, something. I think November 25th. The Wednesday right before Thanksgiving for all you Americans, and the Wednesday right before the last Thursday for everyone who's not American.
Yes, that'll be the weekend I'm struggling to get guests. I can't think why.
So yeah, Exo Man of War number 2, the continuation of Exo Man of War number 1 that came out 8 months ago. Don't worry, Exo number 1 is back in stores too. We put it back out there. So if you missed it the first time, you can grab it the second time. And I mean, if you're gonna judge a book by a cover, judge a book by Christian Ward covers, right? Like they're stunning. He's so goddamn talented. It makes me angry.
I've been trying to get him on, and he wants to come on the show, but he
just had a baby.
Well, number 1, he's got a kid, and number 2, he's also insanely busy, because you don't have talent like he has, and it doesn't just sit on his shelf, because the guy is just. Yeah, he's incredibly busy at the moment. And yeah, it's a hell of a cover. And again, let's just go full screen with this so people can see it. That's amazing.
That's actually the very first image that he did for the book. This literally a week or 2 after I was hired, they they were like, Matt Kent's run is coming to an end. We want to do a teaser for a new series. It was before I was even editor on the XO series. My boss, Robert Myers at the time, came to me and he was like, who would do a really good modern XO image? And I was like, oh, Christian Ward. He's like, great, can you get him? And I was like, we'll see. And obviously we did. So that's actually the very first piece of art I commissioned at Valiant right there. Nice. Is for XO2.
But that's not taking anything away from what Emilio Lesio is doing on internals, because
it's stunning.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It is modern superhero action in its finest. Ruth's colors are so, like, I don't understand how you get colors so vivid and bright the way that she is able to. It's just fully saturated but not overwhelming. She's so good at it. And Emilio too. The action, it literally jumps off the page. It's so much fun. For those who are new to XO and don't know anything about him, XO is a combination of Eric of Dacia, a 5th century Visigoth warrior who's abducted by aliens and shot centuries into the future, where he was paired up with Shanhara, an alien, a sentient alien that has been transformed into this battle armor. So almost like a sword in the stone, only he who is worthy can wear the armor. And together, Shanhara and Arik make XO Man of War. And a lot of XO's past stories we've been seeing him, defending colonies in space and aliens, and even his Earth adventures have been in the atmosphere, protecting the Earth from Vine aliens coming to attack. So this series is really his first time we're getting to see him grounded on Earth and see, not only how the world feels about him, but how he feels about the modern world. It sounds like it's a little bit like Conan for Sir Lister of Smeg. It's a little bit like Conan, but it's like what I like to say. It's like Thor if Mjolnir could talk to him. And had a mind of its own. So that's kind of what I say.
That's a good description of that. That's cool. And last but not least, and unfortunately I don't have any artwork for this, which I haven't been able to put up on screen, but considering that we are talking April when this is due, which is Shadow Man, next book from Valiant for this character. Tell us more about what you've got planned for this.
Oh man, if there was any book you should have art for on the screen, it's Shadow Man.
Listen,
I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you all about. You know what? It's funny actually. Now that I'm thinking, all 3 of these books have people from the UK working on it. What a great!
Trust me, I had the guys from Vault on. So I had the Wassels on Sunday, and I just turned around and said, "So what's with all the Brits, man? What's with all the Brits that you're hiring?" But yeah, you're definitely representing as well on this book.
Yeah, so Shadow Man by Colin Bunn, John Davis Hunt, Jordi Belair, Clayton Coles. Shadow Man, probably, and I love all my children, but unfortunately I do not love them all equally, because Shadow Man is the book I've been dying to do probably my entire career. I'm a huge horror fan. And whenever I was at Marvel, like Colin and I together, because obviously Colin is master of horror, especially in comics. Yes. No one does horror like Colin Bunn. And he and I, we want to do a horror book. We want to do a horror book. We want to do a horror book. And Marvel really doesn't do horror. They, at least not the way that it should be done. And so the second I got to Valiant, I was like, who's on Shadow Man? I call dibs. It's going to be horror. And it's going to be straight horror, because that character had never been done. He's a character who can jump back and forth from the dead side, the demonic plane of the voodoo culture, essentially. And it is the Shadow Loa, and it's never been done as a horror book, ever. It has never been done as a straight up horror book. And that is just that's the easiest,
It's also another, quiver to Valiant's sort of like bow that you can really dive into that kind of genre.
Yeah. So it was just like kind of mind blowing to me that it had never been done, but hey, great, I'm gonna do it. So what we see is Shadow Man. Now the dead side is breaking through the earth. You know, the veil that is protecting the earth from this demonic plane is cracking. And it's not just cracking in Louisiana, where he normally calls home, but now it's cracking in London, and it's cracking in Africa, and it's cracking in Arizona. And so we see him kind of, each chapter is him exploring a different one of these thin places as it tries to break through. And obviously, without spoiling, it builds to something that's, you know, big and exciting and comic booky grandeur. But it's like, you know, come for John Davis's heart alone. Like his art is just, no one does what he does in comics.
Okay, this is where I now have to drop some names, because I have a John Davis Hunt original hanging beside my bed. It's next to my Scotty Young sketch as well.
I have a John
two pieces
in the other room over there.
that man, I am a huge John Davis Hunt fan. I mean, when you're talking about him doing horror, if you're watching this, if you've not read Clean Room,
that's what got him hired.
You are a fecking idiot. You need to go and check that book out. What he did with Wildstorm was mind-blowing. The guy is just an incredible talent, and hearing that he's on this book, I'm a happy bunny, because he is something very special.
What I love about him is his art style is so clean and open-lined that it makes you feel safe. You know, it makes you feel like normal and everything's fine. And then when he goes, and he's also one of those artists that draws like every single window and every single like brick. Literally when he was designing Baron Samdi's new costume, and that's all this like gold filigree and buttons and stuff. Like I wrote him and I was like, are you gonna be cool drawing this? I love it, but I have to ask, right? For your sanity, are you going to be comfortable with this? And he goes, I mean, you can remind me of this email come issue 4 when I'm like, you know, complaining about it. I'm like, all right. But truly, like he's, you know, he makes you feel so safe and comfortable. And then when he goes grotesque and horror and like, again, every single drop of blood, right? Every single tooth, every single, you know, like tentacle. It's super, super creepy and great. And he just turned in the most stomach churning page of probably the whole series. And I told him like I couldn't look at it because it just like it made me so uncomfortable. So, you know, that's great. But yeah, no, I am just so thrilled to be working with truly some of the best at horror in the business. And I'm very, very fortunate that Valiant is letting me go as crazy dark with the series as we are. And also, if you haven't seen it yet, we also have an amazing cover by the one and only Tony Moore.
Okay, let me see if I can find this really, really quickly.
Tony Moore Shadow Man.
Dear me. You never know. Let's see if I can find it. If this is what I think it is, let's just dial this up. Oh, okay. Yeah, bear with me a second. I'm going to bring this into a screen, because I think we need to let people see this. This is the Shadow Man Moore cover. Hang on a second. Wrong one. Hang on. Bear with me. That's the search. I'm getting there. I'll find it. I'm so close. I'm so close. Here we go.
Jeff to call.
There we go. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something very special.
It's so good. Yeah, when Tony said he would do it for me, I was just over the moon. Because as again, Tony Moore, a staple in the horror comics. So yeah, it's get ready, buckle your seats and hold on to those butts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the amazing looking books. I mean, the solicitors make looks like me without a good night's sleep. Okay, there's a mental image I don't think I needed, but thank you very much indeed for that. So that's Exo Manowar, November 25th. You've got Savage announced for February 21, and then Shadowman for April 21. Any other books that we can very quickly talk about around that kind of ballpark?
I mean, they're not my books. I'm not editor on them, but I love them. They're great. Obviously, we have new issues of Rye coming out by Dan Abnett and Juan Ho Rip, Bloodshot series by Tim Seeley, Brad Booth, Mark Lamy, and a whole slew of different artists that have tackled Bloodshot. So those are coming out, and you can pick those up now. And then we just also announced for next summer the new Ninjak series by Jeff Parker and Javier Pulido, which is just, I mean, Javier is beyond. He's insane. And this book is gorgeous. And then also for next summer, we have The Harbinger by Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly with Robbie Rodriguez coming out just in time for the Harbinger film by Paramount. So, you know, it's, yes, we're all
everything's coming up Valiant.
Yeah, yes, these were all supposed to be 2020, but hey, it's making for a great 2021.
Fantastic. I'm going to finish on one last question, which I know this might come out a little bit of left field, but at least we'll kind of get it done. This is to wrap things up. Daniel Betts, sorry I was a bit late to this watching, but he said hi earlier. If the question's already been asked, it hasn't. So here we go. What is your favorite comic graphic novel to reread? Always like to know what people enjoy. It's a good question because it's something that we've been asking over the course of the summer, which is it a case of comfort food or just embracing everything new that you can find? Or have you been watching Friends on repeat like a lot of people have? I've been watching The West Wing. That's what I've been doing. I've just been binging West Wing again.
I actually watch through Friends probably once a year. It definitely is my comfort zone, but no, I've been watching Dave Letterman's Netflix show. That's been my fun thing right now. It's very good. So I have two. One is an issue that I read all the time, and I don't know if it's comfort or if I'm just sick and twisted. Y'all decide. I think it's issue 6 of Sandman. It's the 24-hour diner issue.
Oh man, yes, that's because I've been rereading a lot of the books that came out of like the Warrior, the Fleetway book. So I kind of did Miracle Man, I did V for Vendetta, and I did Sandman again. And yeah, especially off the back of the Audible drama.
Yeah.
So which they weren't able to translate 24 hours. Because nothing matches what is on that page.
No, you need the visuals for that, and that issue. Truly, if I'm being honest, like that issue, I think is what inspired me to create comics and work in comics, because it really showed one just how a standalone issue can be so strong and capture such visceral emotion. And if you haven't read it, it's horrifying. It's one of the most horrifying issues.
Well,
in
I mean,
comics.
The thing about it as well is it's pure anticipation because you're waiting for Dream to show up. You're waiting for Dream to get there, and this is what he's doing to fill his time. And what he's doing to fill his time is horrific.
It's horrific. So not only is it's a fantastic standalone. But it's also, but it's also, it shows too how you can, through a series, through progression, build relationships between the characters. And Neil does such a good job of the reader knows something the characters don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And the reader knows how all of these characters are connected, but the characters themselves have no clue whatsoever, which makes it all the more horrifying and twisted. But it's so, from a pure intellectual level, take the horror out of it. It's very, very well crafted. It's insanely well crafted. So
I'm trying to remember which one of the issues. I think it was that issue, because it's well documented that Neil wasn't entirely sure about how to do sequential an ongoing story at that point, and he was kind of learning on the job. And it was basically, they turned around and said, no, that was the issue when he was landing every note, every page turn, every note. Yeah, something very special. Great choice. Excellent stuff. Solicitoress Meg, I reread the Damachi light novels all the time and rewatched the anime that's based on too. And you've also got Danny Ward, who's joined us a little bit late into the conversation. Rewatch this episode. It's been a great conversation, but saying the new Harbinger comic is going to rule.
Yeah,
so yes.
Danny is in my sales department at Valiant. She's fantastic.
Oh, there you go then.
She knows. She's read it. She's read the new Harbinger.
She knows. Brilliant. I'm looking forward to the books. Like I say, as a John Davis Hunt fan, I'm very much looking forward to the Shadow Man. But no, all three sound incredible. And what Valiant have planned for the end of this year, moving into next, is something very special. Heather, if you could tell us where people can find out, certainly the best place to keep a track on what Valiant are up to. Where's the best place on social media, online, for them to head to?
Oh, Valiant Comics at Twitter is the best. It's at Valiant Comics on Twitter. You can sign up for our newsletter, Valiant Voice. It comes out every Wednesday and gives you all the latest goings-ons, free digital downloads sometimes, or the virtual portfolio reviews that I do. So definitely check that out. And then where folks can find me, you can find me at Heather Antos on Twitter, and send me penguin pictures.
Well, yes. I mean, certainly, because it's Heather Antos on Instagram as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Because that's certainly the place to go for penguin pictures. And penguin updates. Definitely head to Heather on Instagram. But there's the address on screen. Go check out that account. Heather, I mean, we didn't determine at the beginning of this how long we were going to go on for. It's been a great conversation. I really hope you've enjoyed your time with us. It's been great to have you back. Anytime.
It's always a pleasure. And next time I'll have tea.
Fair enough. I'm down with that, and I'll find a milkshake from somewhere. Perfect. I don't know. For something. Well, I mean, like I say, we can only hope that sooner or later that we can kind of like get ourselves back across the pond, and hopefully we'll find ourselves at a convention at some point in the future. And looking forward to catching up with you in person.
Perfect.
Heather, it's been a pleasure. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Brilliant stuff. Do go check out what Valiant have got planned. Some amazing books which they've showcased there. And like I say, we've got Exo Man of War. You've got Savage as well, and that Shadow Man book, which just looks incredible. But there we go. Right, that's our show for today. Thank you so much indeed. Once again, this has been one of our incidental episodes. It's a drop-in show when we aren't able to get a guest on either our Sunday or a Wednesday show, just so we can kind of move around their particular diary. Heather was able to join us today, and thank you very much indeed to her for doing that. Quick update on the rest of the shows coming up, because my word, have we got some guests for you. This Sunday, of course, Scotty Young. It's the episode I'm actually most nervous about, because I am a huge Scotty Young fan, as I'm sure anyone who knows and follows me is more than aware, because I have piles of his books. I have statues of his stuff around. I am a Scotty Young fanatic. When I talk at the beginning of a show about those interviews and those people that you meet that make me go a little bit mealy-mouthed, this may be the one. You may be seeing a bit of that on Sunday. Next Wednesday, as part of our lockdown episodes, we're talking to Kevin Scott. He has got some great books on the way, but we're also going to be talking about his work on Star Wars. We're going to be talking about his other books that he's been doing throughout the course of the summer. He's been an incredibly busy chap. So talking to him next Wednesday. On Saturday, 21st of November, another one of our incidental episodes, Al Ewing is going to be joining us. He's had a busy year, of course, with Empire from Marvel. But also, we only find them when they're dead. Immortal Hulk, the man is just been on fire in 2020. Looking forward to talking to him. We're then going to be talking to Mike Ciccini. who I'm going to make sure I know how to pronounce his surname, but I've also put it on there on the screen so you know who he is. He's the editor-in-chief of Den of Geek. So you know the site, you know what he does, but I think he's going to be a good person to speak to. By then, I think we'll definitely know about the new or still dates for Wonder Woman 1984 and Black Widow. We found out today about the WandaVision date, which is going to be 3 days before my birthday on the 15th of January next year. That's when it's coming to Disney Plus. Slowly but surely, things are moving out of 2020. Does that still occur for the last two tentpole movies, which are Wonder Woman 84 and Black Widow? End of the day, how is this concertining? How is this moving of content into next year going to make life even harder for studios to get that audience when there's so much content fighting for our eyeballs? Mike's going to have a bit of an idea on that. I'm going to talk to him. Yet to get our desk confirmed for 25th of November, but we're working on a couple of names. The White Noise Studios boys will be joining us on Sunday, the 29th, the last show of November. Alex Packnadell, Ram V, Dan Waters, and Ryan O'Sullivan talking about their books. And then we've got ourselves Wednesday, 2nd of December, yet to determine a date, a guest, for that date. But I think we've got a couple of big surprises for you for those to be confirmed episodes. They're on the way. And that's us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Once again, back again on Sunday for our show. Hopefully you can join us for that. Thank you to everybody who's jumped in and contributed to questions. Hope you've enjoyed our chat with Heather. I really enjoyed that because she's always a pleasure. She's also very forthright about her feelings on things. I kind of sprung some topics on her there, and she took them with good aplomb. Excellent stuff. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And from myself to you, keep talking con and stay safe. Wear your masks, and let's see you safe and well on the other side this Sunday with Scotty Young, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT on Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. From me to you, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.